to Julie, Anneka and Karen.
Lovely, thank you. So thank you everybody for joining our session this afternoon now. So welcome, and we're here to sort of talk about some of the challenges and service improvements regarding our integrated therapy service. So before I do that, next slide please, Sam. I wanted to just introduce ourselves. So I'm Julie Reddish and I'm the Senior Commissioning Manager for SEND Commissioning within Hertfordshire County Council. And I'd like to welcome Karen Woollard, who is the Children and Young People's Integrated Therapy Services Manager. That's a mouthful. I don't know how you say that, Karen, each day. And we've got Anneka Wilson, who is the Clinical Lead for Children's Speech and Language Therapy within Hertfordshire Community Trust. So we will refer to Hertfordshire Community Trust, which is our provider that provides the service, but we often use the slang of HCT, so you'll probably hear that. So that's referring to the therapy service provider. So next slide, please, Sam. So what I would like to do as a commissioner is just to set the context before we go on to the service provider to tell us what they've done. So just to set the position in Hertfordshire, we actually have a joint integrated therapy contract between Hertfordshire County Council and Hertfordshire and West Essex ICB. And what we have commissioned is for HCT to provide speech and language and occupational therapy for children and young people up to the age of 18, and obviously for up to 25 for children with an EHCP. The contract was commissioned in 2019, but due to capacity issues and COVID really, we looked at reviewing the service during 2021 with the view for major service transformations, which started in 2022. The main issues that led to this change was due to really rising demand for EHCP referrals, and they are continuing in Hertfordshire. And really the contract just could not reach those expectations, so we needed to look at how we did things differently, and also to look at the resource that we put into this contract. We also at that time, HCT were experiencing high vacancy levels, particularly within SALT, which was obviously a national thing as well. And at the time we were receiving sort of quite a lot of negative feedback across the system, particularly from schools, parents and carers, regarding not the quality of the service, but access of the service. So which led to sort of some of the service changes. And we brought our key stakeholders in with regards to some of the service improvements and the service changes that we've made. So it was all done in co-production. As part of the review and the work that we did, we also looked at working with other local authorities, reviewing what they did and seeing what was working well in other local authorities, so that we could actually bring about some of those changes. And what we wanted to really emphasise was that we were working within the balanced model. We'll go on and explain that a little bit further in a moment. And we wanted to relaunch that as a system approach to delivery of our speech and language service. Next slide, please. We'll go back. I just wanted to re-emphasise the partnership working, not only as part of the service review, but as the way forward. So all of our key stakeholders, which we've identified on the slide there, are actively involved in the monitoring and the feedback as the service continues. So we rely heavily on a system-wide approach, so hence up through our partnership working. So what I thought would be nice now to do was to share some of our feedback from one of our head teachers. So next slide, please, and press play, Sam.
Our view continues to work really closely with all therapists, but particularly speech and language therapists, and we really see that communication is fundamental to the way that our children learn, and certainly the way that we deliver our curriculum. So we also carry out visits. I think that making sure we look at children in a holistic way, so that speech and language and education are working together to support parents to be able to take the strategies and tools that we use at school, and understand how best to support their child within the home is really important. So those joint home visits, those joint meetings with parents are really important to make sure that everything follows through in all the settings that the children move to. And it's really important for everyone to understand the culture here and that continuous learning, and it's absolutely fundamental to children accessing the curriculum and supporting the children to access all of their experiences, and really for us, absolute key indicator of progress over time, which obviously is the reason we're here, and the reason that we have the children is to support them to learn. So certainly communication is one of the key aspects of everything we do, and the speech and language therapists are very much a part of that. So it's been a very positive year. Our view continues to work really close.
There we go.
Okay, I'm going to pass you now to Karen, who's actually going to go through some of the improvements that we've made.
Thanks, Julie. So what we did is we worked with our commissioners, we worked with our key stakeholders, including our parent care networks, to kind of identify key priorities for the service, and those all became part of our transformation plan. So what we're going to do now is we're going to give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour of all of those different things. So I'm not going to go through all of them on here because we're going to go through them in more detail between myself and Anneka. So I'm going to hand over to Anneka for the first, and then I will carry on later. Next slide, thanks, Sam.
So obviously Julie mentioned that it's about balance model. So in speech and language therapy within Hertfordshire, we use the 3-tier universal specialist targeted specialist model. I'm sure you're all aware of the 3-tier model, but just to give a really quick overview, universal means support for everybody. Targeted is that some children might require some support, and for specialist, it's some children need specific support from our service. So next slide, please. So one of the key areas for improvement was that we introduced something called the North Staffordshire Risk Matrix. You want to put anything else up, Sam? Thank you. So the North Staffordshire Risk Matrix, it's an innovative prioritisation and outcome measurement tool. So we use this for every child and young person that we see within our service, regardless of their age, location, diagnosis or setting. It is a framework for supporting professional clinical judgment, and you can use it also alongside other therapy planning tools such as your ECOS, which is East Kent Outcome System, or outcome measures such as TOMS, so the therapy outcome measures. And within that, we use risk matrix, and we've also developed our own risk descriptors for each specific clinical area. So for example, we'll have risk matrix descriptors for speech sound disorders, we'll have risk matrix descriptors for stammering, or we'll have risk matrix descriptors for language. And we've embedded the risk matrix across all therapies as well from 2022, which enables easy identification of children and young people at the point of assessment and review and end of intervention as well. So every single child we see will undertake a risk matrix assessment with them, and after every intervention that we will do, and after every review we'll do it as well. And this helped us with our development of our universal and targeted offers and specialist care pathways as well, because those are all now based upon the risk matrix score that the child receives. Next slide, please. So when we undertake the risk matrix with the child, we'll have a look at the impact that the child's speech and language or communication difficulties are having upon the child. And we'll also look at the likelihood of a positive outcome from SLT intervention. So how it works is that you get a score for your impact and you get a score for your likelihood of outcome, and then you times them together. So, for example, if you had a child with a severe speech sound disorder, the likelihood is that the impact is going to be high upon the child. So they might not be understood, they're finding it hard to make friends and talk to people at school because they can't be understood. It might be impacted upon their literacy skills. So they would get a high impact score of 4. And then for these group of children, we know that they've got a highly likely to achieve major benefit, or their difficulty may worsen without specific speech and language input. So they would score 4 on the likelihood of positive outcome for change. So you times those together, and that a child with that profile would get a risk matrix score of 16, which is the highest score you can get. Alternatively, you might have another child where they might have very mild speech sound difficulties that are not impacting. It's a mild delay. And so that child might score a 2 on mild on impact on function. It's not impacting upon them really. And they may, achieve a moderate degree of benefit, but their needs can be met by school or family following advice from the speech and language therapy service. So for that child, you might score them 2 and 2, and then together and give them a risk matrix of 4. So this table kind of just highlights all the different risk matrix scores that you can achieve and what kind of level. So when we have the S, it means specialist. When we have the orange, that's your targeted. And when you have the green, that's our universal. So on the next slide, we can see how that looks within the context of that 3-tier model. So if the child got a risk matrix score of 1 to 3, they'd fall within our universal service offer. And that is just ensuring high quality teaching and interactions for all children. If a child, for the targeted level, we've kind of split it up into 2 levels. We've got targeted level 1 and targeted level 2. So if a child got a risk matrix score of 4 to 6, that will be in targeted level 1. So that would be education led, following language programs, but they might be able to receive some advice and support from our service. If the child got a risk matrix score of 8 to 9, that's our targeted level 2. So for these group of children, it's indirect speech and language therapy led intervention. So for example, the child may receive a program that the school is implementing, but the therapist is overseeing and supporting. And then for a child who gets a risk matrix score of 12 to 16, they require our specialist level of service, and that is direct speech and language therapy led intervention. So it just kind of, it shows how it works across the 3-tier model, the risk matrix scores. Next slide, please. Another big change and improvement within the service has been upskilling our parent schools' early year settings to deliver a universal level support. So we introduced a new early years team. So you can see our 2 lovely early years leads within the slide. And they have been supporting delivery of speech and language across the 3-tier model. They've been undertaking service improvement and development. They've been empowering and training the wider workforce to support children's communication skills. And they've been working jointly with our key stakeholders as well. So the key messages that they've been promoting are just raising awareness and the impact of speech and language and communication needs. Really promoting that early intervention is key. And that communication is everybody's business. So children don't need to wait for a speech and language therapist. Communication happens in a range of settings, with a range of people, and anyone who can be supporting children's speech and language needs. And speech and language support can start now as well. So you don't need to wait to see a speech and language therapist. There's lots of things that people can be doing within the home or educational settings as well to support communication skills. Next slide, please. So one of the key pieces of work that the early years team have developed is they've made this acronym FOLLOW. So FOLLOW is an acronym for 6 key parent-child interaction strategies that help develop language skills. So this slide is just showing the front and back of a FOLLOW postcard that they've developed to promote the use of these strategies. You can find these postcards within our clinics. You can find them on our website, and there's also a webinar on our website, a free webinar for 15 minutes about how to support children's communication skills in those early years. And this is also on our website as well. Next slide, please. And also, following that, the Follow campaign was also launched. So the early years team have been part of an exciting piece of joined up working with Hertfordshire County Council, the library services, education, Hert's parent carer involvement group, our public health nurses and children's centres. So the Follow campaign has been launched, and this campaign aims to empower parents and carers to support speech and language development right from the start. So it's also to support school readiness and to close that gap and to convey that messages that communication starts right at home. So on here you can see like a bookmark, there's a web page, there's newsletters, and so this information is given out at the 2-year-old health checks. It's also being provided in children's book bags. You can find them in all Hertfordshire libraries as well. So it's putting that key message out there to support communication right from the start. And the other thing to note is that the newsletter, it's seasonal based. So for example, there'll be activities how to support your child in spring or summer or winter. So it's updated with lots of different activities and strategies for families to use. Next slide, please. Another key part of the early years role has been partnership working with public health nurses, family centres and GPs. So the early years team, they've undertaken lots of training with different people. So they've done some training with our public health nurses on our SLT service offer. And they've given advice about what support and strategies they can be providing at those 2-year checks as well, and making sure that our advice and strategies for around social communication are done in a neuroaffirming way. They provide training to GPs to increase their awareness of our 3-tier model and increase the number of appropriate referrals being sent through to our service. So who can refer, when, how to, all that kind of information, and where to signpost families for support. They also work really closely with our family centres. So our family centres deliver a targeted group for children with language difficulties. So this is for children between the ages of 20 and 36 months, or those children that are at risk for language difficulties as well. And this group helps bridge the gap between our universal and specialist support. So they link in really closely with our family centres around that group as well. And they provide training for early year settings, such as talking with children. And they also do some joint working with Hearts for Learning, so within education, around transition workshops and early talk matters for our PDIs as well. Next slide, please. So this is just some of the impact of the SLT early years role since we've introduced it, all very positive. So 98% of parents reported feel that they're confident using the strategies to support the child's speech and language and communication skills after attending that early talk group run by our family centres. And the early years settings reported that our webinars have been really useful with lots of information to share with the rest of the team as well. And another setting said it was very useful to understand the different levels of the SALT service available. Next slide, please. Another key aspect of upskilling others, particularly in school settings, we've introduced a training team. So the training team were appointed in post by October half term 2022. And they liaised with lots of different other professionals and services, including education leads, our Hertfordshire County Council Speech and Language and Communication Autism leads, and our DSPL leads. So within Hertfordshire, we kind of got 9 different areas, and each area has a DSPL lead. So a DSPL lead stands for delivering special provision locally. So they've linked in with the DSPL leads within Hertfordshire. And then following that, training packages were created and delivered to both early years and mainstream school settings on a variety of topics. And that training was initially virtual, but now it's a bit of a hybrid offer of some face-to-face and some virtual. Next slide, please. So we've had really positive impact of that new training team and our new training offer. So 100% of attendees suggest that they're either extremely likely to recommend our training. They found 99% said it was really useful. And actually prior to the training of that topic, the confidence level was around 30 to 40%. And then following our training increased to 80 to 100%. So we offer lots of different training, and it's updated on a termly basis. So different training is offered every term, and it's on a variety of different topics as well. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of the impact of our training offer. So, you know, I'll be more aware of what useful aids were used at school and what extra things could be implemented. I'll use strategies to support a child in my class and teach children that have similar needs. I'm more aware of ways in which I can support my one-to-one who has been diagnosed with developmental language disorder, and all the different ways in which this disorder can impact on education and social life within school. So really lovely feedback following that training. Next slide, please. Another key improvement and change within the service was the introduction of our education leads. So these education leads roles were introduced in summer 2022, and they came about from feedback from schools. So schools wanted to be able to access expert advice, and they wanted to have a key person that they can link into and have an improved relationship with the speech and language therapy service. So these roles, the aim of the role was to be a key contact between the SLT service, our DSPL, so those delivering special provision locally leads, and our school SENCOs. And the education leads provide like a unique insight into the needs of the local areas that they're supporting. And they also enhance the delivery of our universal and targeted levels of that 3-tier offer to schools in order to improve outcomes for all children, young people with speech and language and communication needs. So they've done this, and they've achieved this by supporting schools in understanding how the speech and language therapy service works, how to offer, how to access our advice and support and appropriate referrals. They provided all schools with knowledge and skills to enhance their universal offer for children and young people with speech and language and communication needs, and maintain that high standard of SEN provision. And they've also provided schools with a better understanding of how to implement interventions for children with speech and language requiring that targeted level of support as well. Next slide, please. So, like I touched upon in the previous slides, they've linked in with a wide range of people, and they liaise with a wide range of people as well. So they support SEN, families, schools, SENCOs, our DSPL leads as well. And they also provide support to our therapists within our team. So they do this in a variety of ways. So they have like coffee mornings with schools and parents. They have been involved in the SEND toolkit. They liaise with our advisory teacher services as well. They go to SENCO surgeries, and they also go to our SENCO forums. So it's having that real key point of contact for our schools. Next slide, please. So we've had really lovely feedback on the introduction of these education lead roles. Schools have increased their access for support for speech and language and communication. We've had a significantly reduced number of calls from schools to our advice line. All schools have access to a cluster email account to seek support advice from our service. So, for example, if they have a child that's on our caseload or a child that's not even known to us, but they've got concerns about, they have a key email address that they can contact and access support from. And our SENCOs feel better equipped on how and when to refer to speech and language therapy as well. So our SENCOs rated the usefulness of 9 out of 10 things having an education need to implement those as well. And this is just some of the feedback that we received from SENCOs, so I won't read them all, but a couple have been that the education needs support has been phenomenal and invaluable to school, and has given lots of practical advice, but is honest about the current challenge that the service faces. I'm really pleased that there's an education leads in place, as it's really good to know where there is somebody to contact with questions. So really, really appreciate having consistency and having the same education lead as well. So really positive feedback from our schools. Next slide, please.
Over to me now. So I think one of the challenges that we have in Hertfordshire is that we have a really high number of tribunal educational appeals, and it was having a really they have had a really negative impact on the service around, particularly around staff well-being, having to attend tribunals. I think they're not I know they're not the most pleasant of arenas to be involved in for some of our less experienced staff, and that was also having a negative impact on retention of staff. So what we did in 2022 is we put in reconciliation and resolution lead posts, one in OT and one in speech and language therapy. And those posts kind of mirror what happens in the local authority, where they also have an R&R manager within their team. So they work very closely as a team. So we put in these roles to provide expert input into the strategic and clinical planning, standard setting, and sort of quality assurance within the service. They work with the DMO and the DCO and the other SEND leads within the local authority. They trying to support resolution outside of the appeal process within mediation as that sort of first line of management, really. And they manage the sort of relationship between the NHS and the local authority to manage the therapy provision in EHCP when there is an appeal process. And another one of their key roles is that they support the staff who are involved in an appeal. Can you move to the next slide, please, Sam? So they have had a really positive impact within the service. So the R&R leads basically take the lead and they guide the therapists on the work that they need to do within reports. We've produced our evidence bank for supporting within those appeals, so that those therapists feel really informed and being able to share that information in that arena. So it's been immensely helpful to have we've got a single point of access for those EHCP appeals, and to be able to, they comment on the reports, and it's just been great to have them as part of that SEND tribunal team. So we've had a really good, really positive impact, and the therapists feel really supported as well. R&R leads, yes, one is a qualified OT. Well, we have 2 OTs in one role, and qualified SLT, yes. Can you move on to the next slide? Another thing that we've done is that we've done a lot of work around our digital support and smarter ways of working, where to try and just save time where we can, really. So we have now got an electronic referral form. It sits on our website. So we worked really closely with our digital team to develop and update that referral form. And what that does is that it makes sure that we've got all the relevant information to be able to support triage. And what we did is that we did a digital automation. So the referral form automatically uploads onto System 1, which is our electronic patient record system, logs the referral so that it's ready for triage. And I'm really delighted to say that we won the HSJ Digital Award for this piece of work around driving change through AI and automation. So we were really pleased about that earlier this year. We've also implemented patient self-booking for all our initial appointments, and that has given increased choice for families and has reduced the number of children not brought in from that perspective. We've also, our website previously wasn't really fit for purpose, so we did a lot of engagement with our partners and our stakeholders, where we redesigned our website and we relaunched it with a new updated version with better access to resources and information. We've also been working with our training team around developing webinars and those online resources, and that's an ongoing thing to continue to add more and more information, really. We've also looked at our report processes in System 1, and we've been using now a shortened EHCP report format that meets statutory requirements, but is quicker and easier for our staff to do. Can you move on to the next slide, Sam? Thank you. So we've got increased efficiency within our report process so that we're spending less time doing reports. Another thing that we've been doing is that trying to target information for families while they're waiting for intervention following assessment, and so trying to sort of send more relevant information at that point of referral acceptance. And having a reduced non-attendance rate. The other thing is that if there is anybody with any digital poverty or people are unable to access and use the web referral form or access any of that information, we've got our admin teams who would support with filling out referral forms or booking of appointments as well, where our admin team would do that for families if that was required, if English is not their first language as well. And also with our new referral form, we've got a better quality of information from referrers to support that triage and then be able to get the right support in place. Next slide, Sam. Thank you. We've done a huge amount of work on our workforce recruitment and retention. So one of the first things we did is that we put in a progressive band 5 to 6 post. So a therapist would come in as a band 5, they would meet their competencies and there's a process that we've mapped out. And so once they've met everything within that process, we would then automatically move them into a band 6 position rather than having to go through a recruitment process. We have a people team process, if that makes sense. The other thing we've done is we introduced band 5 therapy assistant roles, so they're within our training team. So these are our first non-qualified band 5 posts. So it's given people, our therapy assistants, opportunity for development and progression without having to go through qualification. We've done successful international recruitment across all 3 therapies, and it's been a really positive experience bringing them into our service. And we've also been doing the apprenticeship. So we've got 2 of our therapy assistants are in year 3 of their speech and language therapy apprenticeship. And so we are supporting that year 3 out of 4. And for the OT apprentices, we've got 2 who have qualified into that OT apprenticeship already. And that's been a really positive impact for our therapy assistants. We've got rotations and we're working further on rotations we've got rotations within the service, but looking wider within adult services as well. We do a lot of work operationally, trying to support staff. We have focus groups to be able to hear what they say. We're a big service and we cover a wide area. And so actually being able to sit down and have drop-in sessions with staff so that actually we can hear what they're feeling on the ground, really. And we do lots of video staff updates. Rather than reading lots of things, we tend to record little videos to send out that people are happy to watch, rather than having to read lots of stuff. We do wellbeing sessions, and at the end of every year, at the end of every school year, we do a staff away day, which is an opportunity to sort of celebrate success over the previous year, really. Next slide, Sam, thank you. So the impact that we've had on our workforce is that our turnover rate has gone from 19.5% down to 5% in 2 years, obviously on a rolling years. And our vacancy rate, which was sort of 23, well, it was 28, then 23, is that we're now have a vacancy rate of about 5%. Within the service. And then our staff survey question, would you recommend HCT as a place to work? Our response has increased by 20%. So the staff are feeling having a much more positive work experience. Next slide. I think one of the other things key to a lot of the success has been open communication with our stakeholders and working in collaboration with them. This is just an example of all the things that we do to keep everybody updated on what's happening within the service. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there are just lots of things that we have ongoing on a regular basis, really. I'm going to so there's another slide a bit further on called You Said We Did, which is an example. I'll just say about it now. Yeah, it's just an example of the feedback that we get, and then what we've done is a response. And so we do publish that on the website. It's sent out to schools and shared on social media, just with some of the changes that we've done within the service. So I'm going to hand back to Anneka.
Thank you. So current decision is we're still undertaking lots of initiatives. So one of the most recent initiatives was in December 2023 to January 2024 to help reduce the number of children and young people awaiting an EHC needs advice. So this is actually an improving picture. So it says at the moment waiting times are currently 22 weeks, and the number of waiting had reduced from 652 to 182. But actually, I think that's actually probably improved since then as well. And the number of children, young people waiting health assault has reduced as well. So in June 2024, 53% of children, young people were seen for health assessment within 10 weeks of referral. But like I said, it is each month improving at the moment. So a really positive picture at the moment. We've also got now improved relationships and trust. So we've done this through partnership working, being transparent, having a system-wide approach, engaging with staff and then engaging with schools. And at the moment, the Hertfordshire County Council EHC needs advice referrals continue to be high, with a rise in our overall caseload. So as a result of this continued increase for the therapy service, we're reviewing workforce capacity in line with our demand and resource. Next slide, please. So in terms of next steps, lots, like I said, going on. We're continuing to reduce that waiting time, both EHC advice and also health assessments. We're looking at new ways of working. So we're looking at our EHCP report processes, our targeted assessment weeks. We are undertaking co-production with our families and young voices. And we're continuing to build on those relationships with our schools. We're co-producing pathways such as our speech and disorders pathway and our sensory pathway. We're undertaking targeted focus groups, feedback from our schools. We're looking into a virtual offer as well, and also further digital solutions to support. And finally, we're looking at reducing our waiting times for follow-up interventions as well. Next slide, please. So just to really quickly end, the sound on this is quite quiet, so you have to really tune in, but it's a really lovely little clip of a little boy, and this is why we do what we do.
How do you feel about your talk, Ian?
Really happy, and all of us happy people can understand me better, and my speech has improved, so now they won't get confused. I feel really excited about the next thing we'll be doing in speaking language.
That's him.
How do you feel about
Just a little clip of him saying about how happy he is with his speech. So it's kind of why we do what we do. We've got, I know we're right at the end of our time, but if anyone does have any questions, then please do ask.
Just a question about the EHCP and the 6-week deadline. So we've done a massive piece of work. So we have been dealing with a big piece of backlog, as Anneka was saying, sort of since January, to try and get back in line with that 6-week deadline. And so we're hoping that actually after the work that we've done over the summer, that our compliance will be much better. But our compliance is still not as good as we would like it to be. But we've done a big piece of work over this summer holiday period to try and that we're hoping that a lot more of that will be within that 6-week time scale, really. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anneka and Karen. You'll have noticed I've put up a QR code and there's a link in the chat for evaluation on the event itself. You don't need to rejoin the plenary session, but we've got hopefully another minute just if there is any questions that anyone wanted to ask, and we'll stay on for just another moment.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.